Welcome to Soul Wellness with Kristen, where we get into the nitty-gritty of various holistic modalities and explore exactly how they help you heal. I'm your host, Kristen, and I invite you to join me on this enlightening expedition where we explore the connection between mind, body, and spirit. In each episode, we'll talk in depth with holistic providers, medical professionals, therapists, and healers. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge, inspire you with stories of resilience, and provide practical tools that you can integrate into your daily life. So, find a comfortable space and join us as we explore the multifaceted world of holistic wellness. Get ready to learn how to improve every aspect of your life and simply feel good. The adventure begins now. Thank you for joining us. Today I have Christiane Matey with me, and she is with Mint Nutrition. She's an integrative dietitian. She has been on this podcast before, and I'm excited to have her back. She's also a tenant at Soul Wellness, so welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yes, so I can only imagine what we're going to talk about today because I learn so much from you every time we talk. You see people who have seen doctor after doctor and not made any progress. And you have a way of unraveling what's really going on, and it's always a gut issue. There's always something going on. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, so I take a personalized approach, working with people one-on-one to help figure out what's causing everything. So sometimes that's not often practiced in certain medical modalities, like really more conventional allopathic. There are more integrative and functional doctors and practitioners that are coming around that are trained to really look at root cause. And once we figure out the root cause, then it sort of sprinkles into everything else, whether it's a gut issue or they're having digestive problems or diagnoses of like autoimmune. We're still trying to figure out what's triggering all that, what's really starting that. And then once we treat that area, often symptoms start to resolve itself.
Yep. I love it. Today we have decided that we're going to talk about food sourcing and taking trips to the grocery store. You do that actually with clients, don't you?
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You will go grocery shopping with them.
And it kind of helps me get in their kitchen without being in their kitchen. Because,
right.
I was a chef before I was a dietitian. So, both my parents were chefs and then I went to culinary school. So sourcing food or cooking or having that whole environment is it's like breathing for me. And I never realized, no matter what, whether someone's coming to me for gut issues or weight loss, they're so confused. There's so much information out there. And then they're like, well, how do I put it together? And that's what we do. We, myself included, my dietitians, will help guide people on what do they specifically need, and then help them identify what's most important to them. Because you can go down the slippery slope of food is never clean enough, which is not healthy either because we only have so much here. Either we only have so many resources, money, time to cook and prepare all these things. So it'd be great to buy beans dry, but it's probably better just to get them canned, and actually they're not that bad. You know what I mean? So today really, I thought we could talk more about sourcing certain foods and really kind of planting that seed for people, for them to say, maybe I'll focus on this a little bit more and kind of ease up on these other things to make it easier, because not everyone is at home cooking everything from scratch all the time.
And it can be overwhelming. And as you learn what not to eat and what really is affecting your body in a negative way, then it can become just downright depressing when you go into a grocery store, because there's not a lot to choose from unless you are, like you said, shopping on the outer perimeter of the store, going to your Whole Foods. So let's start with, you've lived in Europe before.
Yes.
So tell us about that. The food is very different in Europe than it is in the States.
Oh my gosh, yes. And this was when I was becoming a dietitian. So I was actually in school and I was living full time outside of London for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. GI issues myself, had a lot of digestive problems, can't eat a lot of starches or bread or butter or anything. And I had no problem in Europe. In fact, when I came home for visiting, people were like, I cannot believe how fit and thin you are. I mean, we were walking everywhere. I'd walk down to the store to get the groceries and go to the grocery at least store like 2 to 3 times a week because everything was fresh and local, and we would run out of eggs because the farmer there didn't really have, it's what was on the shelf and that was it. That's what was available to us.
And you felt better, didn't you?
Oh my gosh, so much better. And going to Italy and eating pizza and having pasta.
Right.
And, I would look at that and be like, oh my gosh, I just gained 10 pounds. I didn't even taste it. This is so not fair.
Yeah.
And so that was really insightful for me just in terms of the portion sizes are definitely smaller. So when we go out to eat, often we go to a really nice restaurant, and there was many times that we would come home and we're like, oh, should we make popcorn? I'm still hungry. Are you still hungry? I'm still hungry. Because, you're just eating just enough. Plus it's expensive.
Yeah.
At the time when I was there, it was super expensive. So we didn't have oodles of money. It was a treat to go out. And we're like, oh yeah, we'll just split popcorn when we get home and kind of fill up if we need to.
That's too funny. Yeah. I mean, you definitely notice a big difference when you leave this country and you go where the food is fresh, it's being sourced from local farms, and everything, it's real. It's real food. There's not this laundry list of ingredients. So let's start there too. When you are food shopping with someone and helping them read labels, tell us some things that you would definitely stay away from.
Sure. So the top really inflammatory things, fried food, of course. Additives and preservatives and coloring and dyes and all those things are not good for us. I try to educate people a little bit more on healthier oils because those are sort of a hidden, different types of seed oils. So usually we're recommending avocado, coconut, and olive oil as really good baseline. Butter, ghee, those are fine. Lard even. You can still use lard.
Yeah.
In fact, my parents had a restaurant, back in the day, they used to fry French fries with lard. And then they banned it. It was outlawed. Like you were not allowed to use it in fryers. And we had to use Crisco instead. Oh. And this was back in the 90s, and it just makes you wonder why, everyone just blew up, at that point from just a lot of fried stuff, and it was cheaper and better, and it was not better for us, definitely.
I have heard that McDonald's is going to go back to using tallow, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Have you had stuff fried in tallow or duck fat? Confit, we used to call it confit.
Right.
Culinary school. It just tastes better.
So much better.
But your body knows what to do with all these things. So really kind of if you break it down to simplicity, the other ingredients, back to your first question, was sugar, added sugars like table sugar and stuff like that. Of course, it tastes really good, but it's not the healthiest thing for us. In addition to that, wheat, American wheat particularly, is really inflammatory because they're hybridized grains.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so they hybridized it back in the day with a Mexican wheat to help with fungus. And we also use glyphosate and Roundup and all sorts of chemicals in our crops to mass produce and make sure that we have a better yield versus less. And they ban all those in Europe. They're not allowed. We think that the half-life, is probably about 50 years that Roundup or any of those chemicals stay in the soil. So even if you clear out that wheat and you're no longer doing that and you're doing oats in there and they're supposedly not with glyphosate or anything like that, it's in the soil. So you have to be mindful that some of the stuff is just traced. And you can test. We have access to test for people if they want to find out what's in their body in terms of those chemicals and stuff like that. So they find it in cord blood for babies. I mean, they find it everywhere. Yeah, it's not good.
Tell me about the test you can take to check yourself.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of environmental toxin tests.
Is it blood or is it urine?
Certain ones are blood, urine, hair, depending on what you're looking at or which markers you're looking at. Like heavy metals, you're doing urine. Usually you can do hair. Blood wouldn't be the best one necessarily. Some of the other markers would be better depending if you're cherry picking or doing like a broad one.
But you could literally see if you're getting too much pesticide or something like that.
If you're hanging on to them. So this has to do with genetics and all sorts of stuff. Right. So this is like a whole nother...
How you methylate.
Yeah, how you methylate. If you detox and sweat, if you do sauna, obviously what you eat. So going back to the food part, it's still super important because when we go in and do a grocery store tour, we're walking into the produce section. I'm like, we can spend an hour here and literally talk about all the different colors in the plants and why that's important. Why do dietitians or nutritionists say eat the rainbow? And there's a whole host of thousands of chemicals in plants that you cannot replicate. You can't get in a bag or a box. They talk to your DNA. They turn on and off certain genes. They help you detoxify and methylate, like sulforaphane veggies. They help with detoxification, like cruciferous veggies, like arugula and radishes and broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. They all have sulforaphane in them. But if you heat it, it's gone. So we spend all this time talking about all of these things. And when we talk to people, they're not just free on your Weight Watchers points. These veggies will make you feel better. They can help you detoxify and fight cancer and do all sorts of things. But we just kind of look at them like, oh, they just say eat more veggies.
You don't think about what it's doing for you. You think about if I'm eating these vegetables, it's giving me certain vitamins and fiber and that kind of thing. You're not thinking about it actually helping you detoxify.
Oh, sure. Like even someone coming off of like a surgery or they need to detox their liver, I'll have them make a broth and put some cilantro in there with lots of ginger and garlic and all the things. But the cilantro steeped in hot water for 10 minutes has these detoxification properties in there. It'll help pull things out of your body, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I know. So it's like we could spend hours talking about all these specific ingredients and that's the area that it's inarguably evident that we need to eat more plants in general. Obviously, everyone's body's very different, whether they can tolerate grains or beans or all of those things. In the end, yes, we work with a lot of elimination or therapeutic diets. Eventually, over time, we want them to eat more broad. Once we start to fix their gut or once they start to feel better, they're like, oh my gosh, I can tolerate rice. I can raise my hand and say, I eat all things now, but before I could not. Before my GI was a mess. I couldn't have rice. I couldn't eat any of that stuff for decades. I couldn't have any starches. I'd have pizza, one piece of pizza, and I'd be a hot mess. It was awful until I fixed my own gut. And then now I'm like, I eat beans every day. I try to stay gluten-free because I just think the gluten products here are terrible. If I can get pasta, Italian pasta, or anything that says made from Italy or imported from Italy, or if I know the pizza place does Italian pizza, I will buy the dough from there or I'll buy pizza from there and I never have a problem. But eating American wheat or any of those things is just super inflammatory.
Right.
I know. So corn is there too. Heirloom corn's better, but corn can be really inflammatory depending on, and I think a lot of these things are because of the chemicals that are in there. So wheat, corn,
almost has
sugar.
to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's got to be the pesticide situation.
But if you look at the blue zones, actually the Costa Ricans down in the blue zones, they eat corn every day.
Right.
And they live to 100. So it has to be what we're putting in our wheat or corn. It's also how are we hybridizing them? Like if it's not a natural process of them coming together and become hybridized, maybe that combination is not the best thing either. So we have all these additives and preservatives and no different than cheap wine. They put this I forgot what they call it. It's like a concentrated red grape juice. And this is why people sometimes get a reaction to red wine. It's this aged concentrated grape juice to add this other additional layer because we're so used to California reds being just like smack your face like bold, you know what I mean? So they add those to get that flavor so they don't have to spend the money on it. And people have this histamine response with it too. So yeah, it's fascinating.
Oh my gosh. It's just kind of disgusting.
It is. It's
it
sad.
really is.
Yeah, it's sad. And it's sadly, we have to pay more money to get better products. If you can grow your own, yes, amazing. If you go to a farmer's market, I've gone to some of them and I'm like, oh my gosh, you leave there with $100 of stuff and you're like, why is this so expensive?
I know.
It's really expensive. So I love farmers markets. You can get organic stuff and local. I think it's great. I do love going to Whole Foods and getting their produce. I think is great. Their pricing's pretty good. Just everything in the middle sucks pricing wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they have good stuff there too. Their meats are great. Their fish is great. The middle of the aisles is you're going to pay a top dollar. It's going to be like 40% more than everywhere else.
Well, and it's processed.
Yeah, it's processed stuff, but it'll be minimally, and there's better stuff that I've gotten there. They'll have like really cool Asian selection and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the outer loop you kind of want, and then in the middle, if you're keeping minimally processed. Ultra processed food is really more about your freezer meals, like Stouffer. You know what I mean? Like you look at the ingredients, and there's really nothing on here that you can read that's the same. In fact, actually, when we lived in Europe, we used to get Special K. My husband loves cereal, so I was like, oh, I'll have a bowl of Special K. I was like, this is really good. I was like, I'm not a cereal person, but this is really good. It's like crispy and sweet and flaky, and I don't know. I was like, I really like this. And so we come back to the U.S. and get a box of Special K, and I like spit it out. I was like, I can't eat this. Why does this taste like cardboard? I go, how is it different?
Isn't that infuriating?
And then I look at the label, and it literally is modified glucose wheat or protein wheat or something like that. It has the American one is all these crazy ingredients, and the one in Europe is corn, wheat, barley, sugar, salt, and then some added, vitamins.
It's like real Special K and faux Special K.
Made from the same company. And I'm sure everyone's starting to hear that more. It seems to be the trend that they're talking about. Thankfully, people are more aware.
Definitely.
I would do it one-on-one, and I'm like, thank God there's this movement of...
There's definitely more awareness now. Even my own family, they are starting to become more aware of seed oils and that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Sure.
People are actually listening right now.
Yes, but you know what's so sad in a sense? I was actually in a group of practitioners, I won't even say. Someone had said, what are you kind of sick of hearing all the time from people? And they're like, the seed oils. I was like, come on, you've got to at least common sense. If you're going to ultra process an oil that has been heated to a high degree, to form another type of oil, it cannot be good in your body. Plus, if you think of soybean oil itself, soy is just a very easy crop to grow. All of that has glyphosate, at high levels of glyphosate in them. So if you did soybean oil, you could do non-GMO organic soybean oil would be better. But it's really all that other stuff that's in there. And it's like, well, it's not just about the seed oils. It's about all the chemicals that are in there too.
That leads me to my next question for you. I was going to ask you how you feel about organic and non-GMO. When you are shopping for produce and that kind of thing, are you still going for the organic and non-GMO as much as you can?
Yes. I try to follow the Dirty Dozen list and then some. So like anything I'm going to eat fleshy. So Dirty Dozen list is from the EWG.org website. Okay. Awesome. It's environmental working group. So if you ever want to know about your water, your town water, go there. Okay. Very cool. Like such great resources.
EWG.
Environmental Working Group. It's a nonprofit. Okay. You can look up your town water there to find out what kind of stuff is in your water if you're on town. There's all sorts of resources like skincare you can look up, all that. They came up with the Dirty Dozen list, which has the top 12 produce that it has the most pesticides in it. And so strawberries are always number one. So I never buy strawberries not organic. I mean, obviously, if we're going out and getting a smoothie and I know it's not organic, I'm going to chalk it up for that, but it's probably not the best thing for me. So berries is at the top of the list. Cherries, grapes, lettuces, pears, apples. Those are pretty much at the top of the list. Peaches for Dirty Dozen list. Like they have the highest amount. So those you want to get organic. And if they are certified organic, they should be non-GMO. Yeah. And genetically modified is just that they've taken the gene out of the plant and they injected Roundup or a pesticide, a fungicide, an herbicide, and they put it back in the plant and then it replicates itself. Oh. I know.
Good grief. And then for meat, you're looking for grass-fed, antibiotic-free.
Best, for red meat, any kind of red meat. Usually if you get bison and venison, most of those are all grass-fed and in the wild, most of them, but I would definitely look to see. Force of Nature is a great place to get bison and venison and elk, and you can get meats delivered to you. You can go to, I think there's a lot of butchers around here that do local grass-fed, grass-finished. Yes. So there's a difference between you want both. That's not just grass-fed, it's also grass-finished. Yes. And then the fat in it's actually better. So in red meat, especially with cardiovascular stuff or whatever, or Mediterranean diet usually doesn't follow it on red meat because it can be really inflammatory, the saturated fat in there. With grass-fed beef or any kind of meat, the saturated fat's very different because the way that they're eating and the way that they produce the fat in the body is actually beneficial. It's less inflammatory, which is pretty cool.
That is.
So you can have grass-fed meats and it still would be better cardioprotective. Okay. Yeah, because it's not going to have that bad inflammatory saturated fat. Okay. Same thing with grass-fed milk or grass-fed cheese.
How do you feel about dairy?
I'm more of a naturalist, you know what I mean? So if someone gives me creamers and we're at the grocery store, I'm like, well, if you can tolerate milk, listen to your body. Yeah. That's first and foremost. So dairy and me are not friends. But once in a while, I'll throw some cheese in something or I'll throw whatever. But I get very like clearing out phlegmy. Yeah. I start getting sinus infections after coming back from Napa from too many charcuterie boards and too much cheese. I'm like, oh my gosh, my sinuses are full. But if I do dairy, I try to get the one that doesn't have any hormones in it. So Tillamook is amazing. Okay. I love their company. They only buy milk from cows that have not been treated with hormones. So they actually put estrogen in some of the milk, in some of the cows to produce more milk. So obviously you need them to have their udders and producing more milk for their babies that they're not having. So you can see it's RBST, I think you'll see it, or it'll say cows not treated with the hormones, which is amazing. So that I put on the top of my list for dairy.
That's a good tip.
That one's a good one. That's definitely a non-starter for me. And grass-fed meat is a non-starter. Antibiotic-free chicken, non-starter. Like I won't, I just know that when I go next door or some other place to go have lunch and there's chicken, I'm like, it's going to be an antibiotic chicken because they're not going to pay the money for antibiotic-free chicken. In fact, I think Chick-fil-A is not using antibiotic-free chicken anymore just because of cost.
That's what I heard, that they went back.
Yeah, which bums me out. So I'm like, now I don't want to go there because we don't need antibiotics. The only reason why they do that, especially for pork and poultry, is because they throw them all in a cage and then they're all infestated with their waste and they get really, That's why I picked Neiman Ranch. I think theirs is better. Or you can get Force of Nature. You can go on and get wild boar. which is awesome. I don't know why we don't have wild boar here. We have so much wild boar in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm like, why do we not have wild boar or a buffalo farm or, bison? We don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. Maybe I should start one.
Do you have any local farmers that you like to use around here in our area for meat?
I don't know of any. I mean, I've heard of places you can go to, but you have to buy big amounts. I do like going to Sovereign Traditions. That was a pretty cool place to go to. They have all sorts of stuff in their freezer. But I'll get fresh. Like I said, Whole Foods I know is really good. They source stuff. They've got different levels. So that's easy. If I'm not thinking about it and I just need a couple little pieces of something or want whatever, I'll go there.
Yeah.
Then I'll probably have it sourced to come in. But it makes more sense financially for you to like split a cow with somebody.
Right.
Or to get like a local butcher. I don't have one in mind, but I have friends that get some. Mm-hmm. We just don't have the freezer space.
Yeah.
Because you have to get it like broken down.
Right?
And
it's a lot.
Yeah. But what did I make last night? I made venison and beef meatballs. I put cranberries in there and shallots. It was so good. And I made this like smoky bacon sauce that went with it. Awesome. So I'm trying to think of different ways other than just like beef and meatballs and, the traditional stuff to come up with different ways. Because it's better for you.
Thankfully, I have a avid hunter in my family, so
that's
hook me up with some deer meat.
That is amazing, right? Yeah, there's so many fun recipes to do with that. So that would be at the top of my list in terms of like ingredients. Fish, I try to follow the SMASH T acronym.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardine, herring, trout.
Okay.
Have the least amount of heavy metals, and then try to get wild caught as much as possible. Farm raised is just...
I know. I happen to know from a previous corporate job a person that actually fishes, lives in Alaska and is a fisherman. He's actually a dentist, but does the fishing on the side, and educated me on salmon in such a major way that I stopped eating it out altogether.
Wow.
I really did.
Yeah.
Because there's only one true wild-caught salmon, and that's from Alaska. So when you see Atlantic salmon and when you see Scottish salmon or whatever they put on the menus, it's all farm raised. It's done in the Atlantic Ocean or whatever ocean that they're claiming it's out of. But he said the amount of hormones that they dump into the water, the amount of
it's so sad.
Is so bad for your body. He said, you want to talk about something carcinogenic.
Yeah.
So I just completely stopped eating all of that.
Which is so hard too, because I find this is where people get so confused. Like, what do I do? And I think it just has to come down to what is most important to you. And then keeping a wide variety of foods. If you're eating salmon 6 times a day, then I would source the most quality. If you're having it once in a while off of a restaurant, then chalk it up for a night out. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. You cannot cover every base when you live in this country, or you really will be stressing yourself out at mealtime every single day.
Yeah, yeah. Because they're looking at budget. So if it's a restaurant, they're going to find what's the least expensive, best quality thing that they can get and mass produce it, because they have a profit margin to make. They're not going to say, oh, this is a wild caught whatever. It's going to have to be like $45 on a menu for a salad, and you're like, oh, I'm not paying for that kind of money. So anything in the middle, when we do look at labels, we're always looking for things that you can recognize, like bar ingredients. When it's a laundry list of stuff that you're like, what are all these things? We try to avoid MSG is in a lot of things. It's really interesting. Every week that I'm at the grocery store, I see new stuff every week. So companies are getting smarter because people are paying attention. They're really kind of listening to other people talk, or maybe they're learning more and they're saying, okay, this matters to me more. I don't want nitrates in my sausages and deli meats. You definitely don't want those. Those are cancer-causing agents that they put in there for preservative. And so you'll see certain companies, they'll say nitrate free, thumbs up. You're not eating it every day. You know what I mean?
Right, right. I think it is really important to have a varied diet.
A half a cup of beans will reduce your risk of polyps immensely. So it reduces your risk of colon cancer. So if you eat beans every day, it could be chickpeas or lentils or whatever. Always try to throw some kind of bean in there. Not only is it fiber and really good for weight loss, but it's great for your GI. And then it makes it an unhappy place for bad things to grow and where good things will flourish. But yes, it reduces your risk of polyps.
Wow. And that's a great source of protein.
Tons, yeah. I mean, not like eating a steak, but definitely has some adequate amount of protein. Yeah, which can be really helpful. So yeah, it's more about picking that. Do you need organic lentils? I mean, if you want to and pay $4 more a bag, sure, if that's something that's important to you. So I think, sourcing things, rice, I try to get American rice if I can, because it has minimal arsenic. Rice has actually a lot of arsenic in it. Yeah. Speaking of like heavy metals and toxins. So they're in our foods, like in North Carolina, we have a lot of cadmium. And so I was telling our colleague about this. In Tennessee and North Carolina, this red clay has tons of cadmium in it. So so growing things in this soil without some other things can actually make more cadmium be in your fruits and veggies and stuff like that. So you might want to enrich your soil and test your soil. And
oh my gosh.
So you can go down this slippery slope. Yeah, and cadmium is not good. As you know, I tested off the charts for toxic levels of cadmium in my body. Toxic, cancer-causing, toxic levels.
That's so frightening.
Yeah. And they could be in protein powders. They could be in all sorts of stuff. So you have to source things, at least be more aware. But again, if I had a protein powder or I ate chocolate every day that had a lot of lead in it, you sure will probably find some lead in my body. That's why you want to have a wide variety, because it's kind of like...
Why is lead in chocolate? I keep hearing about that.
I don't know.
What is that about?
I have no idea. I don't know how it gets in there. I don't know if it's from...
Can't we have anything?
I know, right? Yeah, because chocolate's its own food group, in my opinion. But,
right.
We have bowls of chocolate in my office, Yes, it has lead in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not right. It's terrible. But then there's things I would have thought I had tons of in my body, like mercury, because I ate so much fish for so long.
But you were not high in mercury.
I had nothing. I had zero in my body.
So it could be that your body methylates that properly.
And I'm sweating and sauna and... So eating a lot of plants make you more alkaline. So at any time, if we're eating more like meat and fried food and processed stuff, you're going to be more acidic. And being more alkaline inside your body is healthier. Your body knows how to flourish. This is why we feel good. But the companies have gotten so good decades ago about enhancing flavor that's all we crave. When you're eating a bag of chips, it's hard to eat 2 or 12 or whatever it is that the portion size is. It's like, oh my gosh, this is here. The Doritos are just here and it's so good and I can't stop eating it.
Right.
And that's from all the stuff that they put in there because it tastes good. But inside the body, it's not helping you at all. It only makes you feel worse,
Right.
So if we can look beyond the palate, what things taste like, and we can kind of start to expand, and try different things. Children aren't born picky. I teach my parents that all the time. They are not born picky. We create picky eaters. We do.
Yeah.
We create them and then we identify them. Well, my child's picky. And I'm like, well, yeah, they are because that's all you do is title them. Right. They're picky. And then you play into it. Well, they're not going to eat it. Well, of course not because you call them picky and
you've been feeding
and you
them,
don't give it to
and
them.
You're feeding them chicken nuggets every night because you think they're picky.
Yes. And in fact, actually, your taste buds will change over time.
Right.
When I went to culinary school, they would make us eat everything raw. We'd be at a produce class and we would eat all sorts of stuff raw because we had it as a chef. You need to know what things taste like. And you're like, yeah, but you see the flavor profile. And then when you cook it, what does it taste like? And how do you kind of change those nuances of the dish? And then, so really as you start to clean up your diet, we're eating less inflammatory stuff, sugar, salt, ultra processed crap with lots of flavorings. And we start to gravitate towards, maybe having a salad before you have your burger instead of your French fries. That's a huge win because now all of a sudden you got a salad with all these veggies and your taste buds starts to shift and change. That you just don't really want all that salt and sugar and all the crappy stuff. And then not only that, you feel better because that food talks to your DNA.
Yeah.
That food is turning on all sorts of genes in your body. Do you ever hear about the twin study? Did we talk about that? So they did this twin study. It's really cool. You can just look it up. I have twins in my family. I've got 2 sets of twins, aunt and cousins. And my godmother is she's a twin. And they're both identical, like 100% identically genetic. 100%. They don't have one gene that's slightly different. 100%. So they look identical at birth. And then interesting, over time, they start to look different because certain genes get turned on and off. Lifestyle. One smoked, the other one never did. One drank more than the other one's never really drank a drop of alcohol in her life. One's super stressed out and chronically sick. The other one's not. And she's active and working out. It is interesting. And you see both sets and they're totally different looking. And so they've done studies on this that you can, based on lifestyle factors, you can turn on and off certain genes. Eating, how you eat. So dietary, one could be vegan and the other one's not. The other one's a runner. The other one's like an ultra marathoner, like too much stress. That's not good on the body either. So you're putting oxidative stress on the body and maybe not a healthy lifestyle or diet, then yeah, they look vastly different by the time they're 50, 60, and 70.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're identical.
That's fascinating.
Isn't that fascinating?
It really is.
Yeah, but when you eat, so when you go to Europe and you eat pizza and you're walking around and drinking wine and you come back svelte and feeling really good and it's like, what? I don't understand.
It makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Your clothes get looser. You feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't take the time to eat either, let's be honest. I can't tell you how many people I'm like, stop shoving food down your throat while you're driving, standing on a meeting.
In the kitchen eating, right? Yeah, I know.
So
I do it too.
That. You do too? Yeah. It's just, it's inherent in my body. But so yeah, you have to kind of like, is budget most important? Is it like trying to get rid of glyphosate and chemicals out of your body? Do we have stuff at our house? Sure. But I'm always telling my daughter, all right, you want Doritos? You can get the Simply Organic Doritos. They have no MSG. And you look at the ingredients, you're like, it's better. Is it ultra processed? Sure. It's still a better option. So anytime I go to the grocery store with a patient or a family, anything other than Pop-Tarts and donuts, I'm like, look, I got an answer for most things except Pop-Tarts and donut. There's no good substitute for a donut. Right. Just don't eat it. Pop-Tarts, there's nothing. Just go get a cookie. You can get an oatmeal cookie, it'd be better. But most of it, I'll show them like what would be better and why, or what they can have it with that would be better for their body. Because I'm always trying to regulate blood glucose levels. So if they want a sweet treat, I'm like, just have it with dinner. If you want ice cream, opt for this one because it's not Halo Top that has all these sugar alcohols and all this crap in it. Just get ice cream with sugar in it. Get what you like. Yeah. I'm sort of a naturalist in that
Real
way.
ingredients.
Yes. Yeah. Egg beaters. That was a really good example too. Someone said, well, what about egg beaters versus eggs? And I'm like, well, the carton of eggs, this just says, the ingredient says eggs. Egg beaters has, all these things. No different than fat-free and low fat. Right. If you look at yogurt, because the yogurt, they want it to be as palatable. Fat gives things this mouthfeel, this smooth, creamy texture. So when you have full fat Greek yogurt, it's just yogurt, salt, whatever, vanilla, sugar, whatever they're putting in there. If you do like fat free, there's all these other things to make it
taste like it has fat in it.
So to give you that silky mouthfeel, they'll probably put some kind of inulin fiber or something like that. So just get yogurt. Honestly.
Right. Make sure you can read and understand every ingredient. That's
2% is fine. You don't have to do whole milk if you're trying to watch fat content or you have some cardiac stuff or whatever. I'd still think your body's not going to know what to do with it versus the 15 things that they put in there to make it taste better. It still doesn't taste the same.
Wow. So tell us, if somebody wants to work with you, if they want you to help them clear out their pantry or go to the grocery store with them, I mean, it can be really overwhelming for sure. I think it's a great service that you offer people to help them and that you'll physically go help them.
Yeah, and their insurance might cover the session too of going to the grocery store, which is pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's great to bring families too. So we do free consultations and then we try to find out what their insurance covers for one-on-one sessions with myself or any of the dietitians that I have, and then they can add that into their repertoire of one-on-one sessions that they need, that they find important. Often we're just kind of sprinkling it out there, like we should go hit the grocery store because obviously getting that food on the plate, and that's really half of the battle. Like in terms of being healthy, whether your goal is about weight loss or just feeling better or gut health, it's like, okay, all that information's out there. How do we get it on your plate?
Yeah.
There's time, there's money, there's all these things that are hindering us from getting what we need on our plate. So then we just go through Bojangles and get a biscuit or some kind of crappy food.
And it starts at the grocery store. I always say that. I refuse to buy junk at the grocery store. I just won't do it because I know if I buy that, I'm going to eat it all.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
Sure.
So it starts at the grocery store. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So people can contact us through our website, themintnutrition.com. We have blog posts. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, Instagram and Facebook are probably the best. And then, that's pretty much it. We do a free consultation, take most major insurance for North Carolina and 8 other states.
Awesome. And you're on the Soul Wellness website as well. Your website is themintnutrition.com. Yeah. Very good. Well, I hope everybody that needs you finds you. I know that.
Thank you.
People walk in here every day and I'm handing out your card.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and all you do.
Thank you for being here and enlightening us. And I guarantee we'll be doing this again with a different subject.
Yeah. Vitamins next, I think.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another enriching episode of Soul Wellness with Kristen.
We hope the insights shared today have resonated with you, inspiring a deeper connection to your own journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed today's episode, we invite you to subscribe, share, and reach out. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring you meaningful content that educates, empowers, and uplifts. Remember, you are a vital part of this community, and together we're creating a ripple effect of positive change.